नादस्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यस्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवैधि नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्कः प्रादर्भजामि मनसा वचसामगम्यम् वाचो विभान्ति निखिलाय तनुग्रहेण यन्नेदि नेदि वचनेर्निगमावऊचो तं देवदेवमजमच्युतमाहुरग्र्यम् प्रादर्नमामि तमसः परमर्कवर्णम् पूर्णं सनातनपदं पुरुषोत्तमाख्यम् यस्मिन्निदं जगदशेषमशेषमूर्तो रज्ज्वां भुजङ्गमैव प्रतिभासितं वै Hri Om. Hand over to Sanjay ji, please. Hri Om.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Hari Om. We have just concluded and we are embarking upon the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is called Sankhya Yoga. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, being a divine scripture and also a scripture by Vyakhya, is entitled as a Grantha only when it has Shadalinga. Shadalinga means there has to be 6 definite signs to know that it is a Grantha. And the manner in which a Grantha is read, there's a difference between Grantha and a Kadambari. A novel or a fiction is a different thing. You can read it anywhere, any way you want. You may omit certain things. You may deduce any meaning that you want. But in case of a Grantha, there are Shastra guidelines to read a Grantha. And one of the guidelines is, when one Adhyaya of a Grantha is over and the second Adhyaya starts, there is a Sangati, which is basically a connect between the 2 Adhyayas. Bhagavad Gita being the pinnacle of philosophy of Hinduism, it goes without saying that the second Adhyaya, third Adhyaya, fourth Adhyaya, the sequence in which it is arranged has also enormous significance into it. So this being the first Sangati or first Samanvaya between first Adhyaya and second Adhyaya, it is worth understanding how this Sangati is there between the 2 Adhyaya. The first Adhyaya's title we all know is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The most important part is the Shabdartha of this particular title of the first Adhyaya is Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the yoga of Arjuna's despondency. This is Shabdartha. Now, each word, if we see, has its own importance in the title itself. Who has the despondency? A person called Arjuna. So the most important part is, this kind of despondency can come to whom? Shvana Vishada Yoga. That is not the name given. Why? A Shvana cannot, or a dog cannot have Vishada. Then Asura Vishada Yoga. No, because Asura cannot have Vishada. Then what about Manava Vishada Yoga? The title could have been Manava Vishada Yoga because Manava can have despondency. Can he or cannot? The fact that every human being cannot have the kind of despondency that Arjuna had, that is the most important thing to remember. Vishada is not a problem. Vishad is not the problem that we have. We have what is called as topical or situational problem. The problems in life are of two types. Topical or situational issues is what we are dealing with throughout our life. The child is not getting admission to a particular college. This is our problem. This is situational problem. The admission takes place. We are done with it. This is not despondency. This is not vishad. It is dukkha. So our yoga, first of all, we don't have a yoga. Our story is Manava Dukkha. Arjuna's story is Arjuna Vishad. So there is a difference between Arjuna and Manava. Now, what is the difference between Arjuna and a common man or a man like us, including the one who is speaking? The difference is Arjuna is, by definition, Arjuna itself means a stainless white silvery character. A stainless white silvery character. In fact, Argentinium, which is a chemical name for silver in Latin, and the code for that is Ag, has come from the word Arjuna itself. So stainless character, how it can develop? That is the first question that we should be asking. So unless I become Arjuna, there is no chance that I will get Vishada. So the whole concept here is to basically at least देखा तो जाए कि अर्जुन को issue क्या है. What is the despondency that Arjuna has landed into is itself a knowledge. Because in Urdu, the word for despondency is called sadma. You get a sadma. Now a Sufi beautifully says that Atish e sadma fana ki ruh hai. Atish e sadma means the fire of the despondency is the root of salvation. The fire of despondency. Atish e sadma fana ki ruh hai, wali ki zuban nahi. Not a word given by some preacher. It has to come from here, from within. So it can only come provided you are tackling the issue at that level. Now, if we look at the issues that we are tackling, we tackle all the issues in the world from three perspectives. And to understand these three perspectives, we need to understand that we are slowly moving towards finding out the root cause of the Vishada. So in the first Adhyaya, Bhagavan hasn't spoken a single word apart observing Arjuna. As Guru Deva says, when a hysterical person is blabbering, let him complete the blabber. So Arjuna is poignantly watching his disciple blurting out his own interpretation of his own despondency in his own words. So first of all, this Vishada or despondency has happened to a person called Arjuna, who is of stainless character. That means he is the one with Chitta Shuddhata Purnatva. He is the one who so far presumed that, and not only presumed, he followed dharma till the point he came on the battlefield. Once he came on the battlefield, the question that arose in his mind was not simply an emotional question. How can I do that? How can I kill him? It was not restricted. The width or the vyapti of the prashna is not alone to an individual killing or something. The vyapti is towards a universal issue that he's trying to bring forward. And the issue that he's trying to bring forward, the dilemma that he's facing is, the dilemma that Arjuna facing is that what I am doing, is it as per dharma or not dharma? Because the importance of dharma is definitely there in the mind of Arjuna. Nothing he shall do which is not as per the dharma. So far he presumed, believed and acted in the name of dharma. And being the person of a very high character, being the person who has already become a sadhaka by having chitta shuddhi, he has come to a point where all of a sudden, in spite of the sattvikta in him, he is coming across a dilemma where he is now questioning himself whether what I am doing is as per dharma or not. And that is the reason why he is asking a question. His question is coming from that despondency. Now the question is, the kind of issues that we face and the kind of issue Arjuna is facing, there is a vast difference in it. Arjuna is trying to project his despondency in the vast expanse of the universe where he is working. He is all of a sudden asking a question, the way sometimes we ask a question to ourselves, that who am I? Very rarely we ask this question, but we do if at all we are inclined little towards spirituality. ये सब शादी, बच्चे, education, money, car, fame, whatever I did, was it all worth it? This question comes to the mind, definitely comes to the mind. And then we get confused. Somehow we convince ourselves, ऐसे ही चलता है. So sometimes we are on the path of spirituality saying that, कुछ नहीं है इस दुनिया में, कुछ नहीं, leave everything, there is nothing, what are you doing here? ना बीवी होती है, ना बच्चा होता है. Suddenly you get what is called a smashana vairagya in us. But at times when we start working in the field, and when all of a sudden a check of couple of thousand rupees or dirhams comes our way, then we suddenly become a rajoguni, and then we feel that world is worth living because two people came and saluted me. So there is a vexation between two extremes. Ram naam meetha kadwa lage, meetha lage dam. Ram naam kadwa lage, meetha lage dam. Duvidha mein dono gaye, maya mili na Ram. We are in that situation. We neither have Ram with us, we neither have Dam with us. We are somewhere in between. There is not enough courage to get into the path of Rama, and there is no tamas enough in us or rajas enough in us to get into the path of Dhamma. So we are somewhere in between. The dilemma that is arising in our mind is because of this pre-existing condition. In case of Arjuna, the dilemma was not that. Arjuna's dilemma was, I am acting as per the dharma, I being the kshatriya, khala nigrahana. Elimination of enemies is my duty, which I am doing, but all of a sudden he got a feeling that, is it really my duty? Is it my dharma? So first of all, this has come as a question, as a dilemma to a person of the stature of Arjuna. That is needs to be understood. Second is, what has happened? He is not only having a problem or issue. For that matter, Duryodhana also had an issue in the mind. He thought, oh my God, what if Bhishmacharya and Dronacharya decided to, in their mind, to side with the Pandavas? So he started in the first adhyaya, cajoling as well as little infuriating them, that please do not consider Pandavas your friends, and I hope you shall discharge your dharma because you are on my side. So he also had a dilemma in mind, but that was a selfish dilemma. While that the dilemma that Arjuna had, which led to Vishada, was the dilemma concerning a universal question, what is dharma? So what has happened is, the Bhagavad Gita has started with the question of dharma in the mind, that what I am doing, is it as per the dharma or not? Bhagavan answers from 2nd adhyaya till 18th adhyaya what dharma is. He keeps on. And the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita is, after answering what dharma is, then Bhagavan comes and tells to Arjuna, Sarva dharman parityajya. Understand the dharma, behave as per the dharma, and at an opportune moment in the sadhana, leave the dharma. because Atma Tattva means adharmi. Now, this process of taking him forward has led to the creation of Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna went to that despondency. The word again and again repeated by Gurudeva is when a non-selfish desire, I'm again repeating, when a non-selfish desire becomes a vexing question, then it has potential to get converted into Vishada. A selfish question can never get converted into Vishada. So whenever we say, hey Bhagavan, I'm in little trouble, if you could give me little money and tide away with this problem, that cannot lead to Vishada. That can only be a cry of a wailing man. It is not a question coming from Amrutasya Putraha, as Vivekananda calls it. So Arjuna, being the person who is advanced in Sadhan Chatushta, is raising the question to a high pedestal and asking, and that is why he is not understanding. He is confused. He is confused, as well as he is so much in mental turbulence that he is specifically saying in the second adhyaya, Karpanya dosha apahata svabhavaha. Hey Bhagavan, Karpanya dosha. My mind, my intellect is too small to understand all this. I am anutsahi. I have lost all the enthusiasm to understand because I do not have the capacity to understand. Karpanya dosha apahata svabhavaha pruchhami tvam. Now I am asking you, dharma sammudha chetaha. My problem is, I am dharma sammudha. I am deluded about what is dharma. This is the dilemma. Dharma sammudha chetaha. Yadrechayaha. Sthan nishitam bruhi me tan me. Now you tell me, bruhi me tan me. You tell me now what? Shishyaha aste aham. I have taken your discipleship. And how I have taken a discipleship? Truly understanding from within that I am not capable. And that is why the last part says, Shadimam tvam prapannam. I am completely surrendering myself to you. I am surrendering myself to you. So that means Arjuna has come to a state where his confusion or the delusion about the dharma has led to ask a question. The nature of question is, can I kill my kins? Will it not lead to Varna Sankara, Kula Sankara, Striya, the women going in a wrong way, etc., etc.? These are only the facets of the question. The root cause of the question is Dharma Sammudha Cheta. And that is why the chapter says Arjuna Vishada. And then Krishna is very happy. Lord is very happy. Why Lord is happy with the dilemma of the disciple? Because this is precisely what the Lord says, that I want to come to you as a human, because then only I know that now you have started your walk towards me. Anybody in Vishada, the Lord is happy because now the disciple has started moving towards the Godhood. And that is why Arjuna Vishada Yoga starts on this background. The question now is, if Arjuna Vishada Yoga and Arjuna has that Vishada, Yoga is a part which is known to the Lord at this moment. What is known to Arjuna? Only Vishada. But this Vishada will lead to the Yoga, the Jiva Shiva Milana, only the Lord knows. So, because it is Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Krishnarjuna Samvada, Bhagavad Gita is through Krishnarjuna Samvada, Brahma Vidya is to be obtained by operating manual called Yoga Shastra. Yoga is operating manual. Sankhya is philosophical manual. You always see in Purva Mimamsa, the first mantra is Athato Brahma Jidnyasa. That is the first line of the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta. In case of yoga, Athato Yoganushasana. Not Yoga Jidnyasa, Yoganushasana. Anushasana means a thing to do. Yoga is a methodology of doing. So, for Brahma Vidya, The methodology of doing was Yoga Shastre through Krishna Arjuna Samvade. That is how the colophon of every adhyaya ends. And that is why the first adhyaya's background has to be very clear in our mind as to know where we are moving. This is the Sangati between first and the second adhyaya. Now we have seen first part of the Sangati. First part of the joint, we saw what is Arjuna, what is Vishada, what is Yoga. How is it related to the second one, which is named as Sankhya Yoga? Now the important question is, if these two are related, imagine the question asked is a question of mankind. The question asked by Arjuna as a representative is a question, perennial questions of the creation itself. The world shall keep asking this question as long as the world will exist. This question and dilemma was there for those right from the creation of universe, and it shall remain till the end of the universe. When did it start? It is Anadi. Why Anadi? Because Prakriti is Anadi. When will it end? It will not end unless one attains the salvation. So that means this is a perennial question of universal nature, or if one can boldly put it this way, this is the only $1 million question that everybody should ask, whosoever has been born. Jantuhu, one who is born, must ask a question, and that question is precisely the question asked by the Arjuna. Otherwise, such a divine scripture as Bhagavad Gita will not take a question for discussion. It is not a question where Arjuna is asking Lord that, should I be killing Duryodhana on the first day or the last day? That is not the question he is asking. Because the answer would have been already, you use this astra and do that. That anyway Lord has done, that he created the sunset and then Jayadratha was killed, etc. Those are called Tatkalika Prashna. Prashna Tatkalik, that is not important. The question important is universal question. And now question comes that when an universal answer has to come for a universal question, the universal answer has to start somewhere. Imagine how difficult it is. Of course, Lord being the Lord, he was able to answer the question. But otherwise, where to start? There is a disciple asking a question, where do I start? Should I start directly from Brahma Sutra? Should I start from Upanishadic philosophy? Should I start from Vyavaharika Satta, Pratibhasika Satta, Adhyatmik Satta? Should I take this question as Vyavaharik Satta Prashna, or should I take this question now as Adhyatmik Satta Prashna? It would have been an enormous amount of difficulty anybody would have faced, but for Lord. Because the Madhusudana is aware how to deal with these questions. That is why he's the most befitting guru of all times. And that is why he started answering with Sankhya Yoga. That means one thing is there, that if such an important question has an answer which begins with Sankhya Yoga, we must know what Sankhya Yoga is. First of all, the word Sankhya. Now, Sankhya word, here itself the digression start in philosophical interpretations of Bhagavad Gita's second adhyaya. There are some people who say that this has nothing to do with Sankhya philosophy. The word Sankhya has come there, we agree, but it has nothing to do with Sankhya philosophy. This is an extreme view taken by some philosophers. They say the word Sankhya has come because Samyak Khyayate Atma Tattvam iti Sankhya. This is the Vakya. Samyak Khyayate Atma Tattvam iti Sankhya. That means the real knowledge of self well taught is Sankhya. Atma Tattvam is knowledge of self. Knowledge of self taught in real manner or the best manner. Samyak is an upasarga. We know Samyak is used everywhere in Sannyasa, Sangita, Samanvaya. Samyak is the most balanced and the perfect way of explaining the knowledge about self or Atma Tattvam. It's Sankhya. This is what some people say. And these people hold a view that since it talks about the self or Atma Tattvam, it is also called as Jnana Yoga, which is true. Sankhya is almost taken as parallel as Jnanam. Now the question is, If this is so, some of the philosophers on the other end, they said, no, this is right away the influence of Sankhya philosophy that is being interpreted here. Because Sankhya-yante chaturvinchanti tattvani iti Sankhya. This is another definition. A philosophy which talks about 24 tattvas is called Sankhya. This is another interpretation. Sankhya-yante chaturvinchanti tattvani iti Sankhya. This is another interpretation. So we have now two things here. Sankhya as a Tattva Jnana we are going to study. Because Sankhya as a Tattva Jnana, that is how the Adhyaya started. Gurudeva, and we must always, whenever we are in this kind of dilemma, we must always take recourse to Gurudeva. Gurudeva has said emphatically that I have seen Sankhya philosophy, and Sankhya philosophy is the basis and the foundation of Bhagavad Gita. Which means it is not only Samyaka Khyayante Atma Tattva, that is of course there. They are talking about Atma Tattva. But Sankhya Tattva Jnana itself is a contribution which is taken by Gita to expound itself. It may not have taken Sankhya philosophy in all its perspectives. There are certain things which it must have discarded also. To give you an example, in Sankhya Tattva, the ultimate Tattva is called Purusha. Ultimate Tattva means the highest that we need to achieve is called Purusha, which is similar to the Brahman that we have in Advaita Vedanta. But in case of Advaita Vedanta, we all know that Brahman is one, Ekameva, Advitiya, all-pervading, Vibhur-Vyapya, Nitya, Shuddha. These are the characteristics of Brahman that we saw. In case of Sankhya, Purusha is an equivalent of Brahma, but Sankhyas feel that Purusha gets parceled into each Jiva. Now, this is something which is not accepted by Bhagavad Gita. So, these are subtle philosophical differences. But the fact remains that the greatest contribution to Indian philosophy or Hindu philosophy amongst the Shad Darshanas is of Sankhya Darshan. Now, this brings us back to the Darshanas. What is Darshana and what is the place or placement of Vedas? We need to understand that at first. Vedas are the primordial scriptures from which everything has emanated. So the source of knowledge of whatever philosophy as an Hindu we will follow, and for that matter, if I make a bold statement, all the philosophies of the world can definitely trace back their origin. I'm talking about the philosophical thought origin, thread of thought origin, it will go back to Vedas. That is why Vedas are the epitome of philosophical compilation that a human brain can ever achieve. Now the question is, it being extremely cryptic, because we know that Mantra, Samhita, Brahman, Aranyaka and Upanishad, these are the parts of Vedas, of which the Upanishada part, the ending part of the Veda, the Vedanta, is the most difficult to understand, most cryptic in nature. At the same time, it is nothing else but the utterances of most of the Rishis when they were into exalted state called Unmani Avastha, Utmanaha. When the mind was not existing, certain things have been spoken about. Now, let us imagine a situation. Our whole existence in this world is because of the mind. When we are sleeping, where we are? We are nowhere. Nowhere means where? Nowhere. We cannot even say where we are. Why? Because when mind is not there, the world is not there. So if this is the case, so what will happen if you transcend the mind and if you are not in sleep? Imagine, you have transcended the mind, but you are not in sleep. Where you will be? We cannot even imagine that kind of situation. But the Rishis were in that situation. Now the question is, we can draw a small parallel now between this experience and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to go into Sahaja Samadhi so often that it was extremely difficult for him to come into universal plane. That means in the world. So what he used to do, once he explained it to his disciples that give me some tobacco, he used to eat tobacco. So one of the disciples asked, Gurudev, why do you eat tobacco, it is a good thing for body, no? Why you're eating it? And the answer given by Ramakrishna was, you all must thank the tobacco because she is the one who brings me on the mental plane and I have to hold on to that, otherwise I cannot come down and talk to you. This indicates what happens when you're transcending the mind. Now imagine somebody who had just taken an experience of transcending the mind and he's coming down and he wants to speak about it. When will he start speaking? Imagine, when will he start speaking? He's coming from supramental state, beyond the mind state, slowly gravitating down towards the mind. Moment he gravitates at the touch point of the mind, he will start uttering, because now he has come into the mind, there will be vacha also. Now he starts uttering the things. When he is uttering the things, he may say certain things which are basically his experience, but they may not mean anything to us. For example, Om. This could be the word that came moment the word started, moment the Rishis came down from the transcendental plane to the mortal plane or the plane of mind. Now that word is definitely pranava. This is very respectable to us, but we have not experienced its beauty simply because we haven't excited ourselves to that state. So when such Rishis come down from that particular state, they do some utterances about their experience of that state, which is nothing else but the Upanishada or the condensation. Now here, Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitaha, the Rishi said, Tena Tyaktena. Tena means what? Now there is a philosophical divergence. Millions of words have been written on it. Volumes have been written on it. Why? What was he exactly hinting at? So who can understand what he was hinting at? The one who has again reached as his stage. And that is the reason why Vedas, especially the Upanishads, are very cryptical in nature. Now comes the question, those who have experienced this state and want to decipher it further and make it simpler for people like us, that is where the importance of Gita Mata goes to the highest order. Because this is nothing else but preferably simplified version that you and me can understand, at least at the level of understanding, not at the level of experience. And that being the reason, here the darshanas come into our hand. Darshanas are the philosophical interpolations of the Vedic truths done in a manner so that we all can understand it. It is a different matter altogether that we even don't understand that. We don't even understand Bhashya on the darshanas, but their intention was that. Now we have such total 9 darshanas, of which 3 darshanas are called Avedic darshan or Nastik darshan. Unfortunately, we have a common misnomer in our mind that Astik means one who believes in God and Nastik means one who doesn't believe in God. That is not a right definition. Astik means one who believes in Vedas and Nastiks mean one who does not believe in Vedas. So we have 3 Nastik darshana, Jaina, Bauddha and Charvak. So these are 3 Nastik darshanas. Astika darshanas are 6 in nature. So we have the Nyaya, Gautama Rishi, Vaisheshika, Kanada Rishi, Sankhya, Kapila Rishi, Yoga, Patanjali Rishi, Purva Mimamsa, Jaimini Rishi, and Uttara Mimamsa, Badarayana Rishi. One Rishi has been ascribed that. Now, between Astik and Nastik Darshana, why should we then study Nastik Darshana if they do not respect Vedas? Mind well. That is where the difference between other religions and Hinduism is. Everything in this world, if at all it has something better to give, we must accept it. Balat api subhashitam grahyam. Even if a child utters a subhashit, it is correct. So that is why Buddhism, Jainism, Charvak, all has been studied as a part of treatise simply to understand what is best in it is assimilated together. And assimilation is one of the greatest quality of Hinduism. Let sarvam bhadram kranebhi shruniyam. Let all the good thoughts come from all the sides to my ear. And that is how the Hinduism has developed. Now, this amongst these darshanas, one of the darshana is Sankhya Darshana. Each darshana has its own importance, has its own philosophy. All the tarka that we have, logic we have in Hinduism, comes from Nyaya. All the tarka that we have, logic, comes from Nyaya. The theory of atomism, that comes from Vaisheshika. So Nyaya and Vaisheshika, they were trying to find out what this world is all about, how it is made. So they came out with the concept of Dravya and Guna. What it means is that the world is made up of certain number of fixed number of elements. These elements come together through a relationship called Sambandham, and that is how the world is made. So there are different philosophies. This is not the forum to discuss those, but Nyaya Vaisheshika. After that came the Sankhya. And Sankhya was a revolutionary concept. Sankhya was revolutionary because it is also called enumeranist philosophy. What is enumeration? Enumeration means it is the first philosophy which gave absolute systemic exposition of how the creation has been made, which is a very important point in the development of philosophy. So Sankhya Tattva Jnana is talking about how the world is made, when it was made, what are the constituents of this world. It runs on some rules. What are those rules? And that is why the importance of Sankhya is, if you know how the car runs and the entire engine, then whatever fault comes, you will be able to operate and make it better. So to know what the creation is, the idea is to transcend the creation. But before transcending the creation, how does a doctor treat a patient? First, he will listen to the complaints. Before that, he knows the entire body. He has studied the entire functioning of the body. So he has studied anatomy, physiology, pathology, microbiology, medicine, surgery, and then he has come to the patient. That is why Bhagavan thought that the question that the Arjuna is asking, I cannot just say that, Arjuna, forget it, you fire the arrows, I am there, don't worry. No, he realized that the question he can only understand, the answer he can understand, Arjuna, only when he is spoken about the world itself. He is speaking the question in the world, but before that he should know what the world is. So knowledge of creation is one of the classical contributions of Sankhyas to Hindu philosophy. So first of all, it deals with creation. And while dealing with the creation, it also talks about something which is not a part of the creation, that is Atma Tattva. Once you filter out the creation, what remains prior to the creation, after the creation, and during the creation is Atma Tattvam. It comes as a logical corollary to the Sankhya Tattva Jnanam. So Sankhya Tattva Jnanam has been chosen by Bhagavan as the beginning of the answer to the Arjuna's question. Here now the Arjuna is asking a question that what should I do, and is it my dharma to do what I'm doing? Before telling him what dharma is, anyway the Lord is going to talk about dharma later on, but before the dharma, he wants to talk about the creation, because dharma is a part of the creation. Where do you observe the dharma? When you are in the world. Those who have transcended the world, for them, na main dharmi, na adharmi. Kabir Maharaj says, मैं धर्मी भी नहीं हूँ, अधर्मी भी नहीं हूँ, because I am transcending both. So as long as we are in the creation, which Arjuna is, he is a mortal body. We all are mortals. We all are bound to be a part of this world. So it becomes natural on our part to understand what dharma is. Now, it is not a forum to discuss about the details of dharma, but Chodana Lakshana Artho Dharma, this is Bhadrayan Rishi's definition. Yato Nishreyas Abhyudayo Sadharmaha. This is Kannada's Vaisheshika's definition. There are definitions of dharma, but that is the guiding light for the person to lead into the world. Now the question is, when we are leading our life into the world, how Sankhya philosophy comes to our help, and why Bhagavan has started with this Sankhya philosophy is what we are going to see, and we need to see. In Sankhya Tattva Jnana, the basic understanding, the fundamental concept is, this world has two components. One which is never changing, and one that is always changing. 2 concepts. One, that is never changing, and second, that is ever changing. The never changing concept or fundamental concept is Purusha, and the ever changing concept is Prakriti. I'm sure you will be always drawing something parallel from Advaitic Tattvajnana also, where we have Brahman and Maya. Here we have Purusha and Prakriti, but right now we are more focused on Sankhya Tattvajnana. This Purusha, which is never changing, immutable, is the one which is always there, which was there, which will be there, because he is ever present, everlasting. Prakriti is ever changing, and this Prakriti is the reason for the creation. And then they started talking about how the creation started. Swami Vivekananda has given elaborate explanation of Sankhya Tattvajnana in America, because that was the time when Darwinian philosophy was coming into the vogue. The evolution was being discussed everywhere by biologists as well as by most of the people. And that is where Swami Vivekananda roared like a lion that the only science that has understood the philosophy of evolution is Sankhya Tattvajnana. And because it deals directly head on with creation of universe. Now let us see what they say. They say this Prakriti, which has created this universe, is nothing else but a potency. Prakriti is not an object. Prakriti is a potency, ability to manifest. Bahu Garbha, it is called, she is called Bahu Garbha. Bahu Prasava, one who gives birth to umpteen number of things. Since when? Since Anadi. Till when? Ananta. She was there before. We don't know the beginning. We will not know the end, because she will always be there. And doing what? Doing only one thing: create and create and create and procreate. So Prakriti is Prakarshena, the one which does with lot of emphasis the creation is Prakriti. At the same time, it is ever changing. Now, this ever changing aspect, which was told by Sankhya, was a very important aspect, because what Sankhya said, the Prakriti has the potency to grow as well as keep on expanding. It doesn't require any external support. That is why, if you look at the physics, the Newtonian law of physics, the first law, which says that every object will remain in motion unless acted by external force. But Sankhya say Prakriti does not require an external force. It has a force in itself to expand. This was considered to be a philosophical hoax till the time Einstein or theory of relativity came on the picture. What did Einstein say? Motion is inherent in the matter. And that sentence, which is called motion is inherent in matter, is nothing else but Prakriti ever expanding. Buddhist philosophy took the same cue and went to the other end, saying that everything in this world is in the flux. It is ever changing, it is in the flux. So much so that nothing, including even the salvation also, is in flux. So there is nothing called salvation, there is only shunya. Nothingness is the only certainty. Which of course Advaita doesn't believe in that, because it doesn't believe in void. It believes in positive feeling. So that Satchit Ananda being the ultimate state of Brahman. So the fact here is the Prakriti is also called Pradhana Tattva, and it is also called Jada. Jada because this Prakriti, although she has a potency, on her own she cannot expand. So if Prakriti is there, and if she is not supported by Purusha, she will not be able to expand. She has the manifest, it is like a water which is flowing in the river. It has electricity into it. But unless a dam is created and the potential energy is converted into kinetic energy, we do not get electricity. In the similar manner, the potency to become pluripotent or become Bahuprasava or create thing is there in Prakriti, but not till the time Purusha has associated itself with it. So Purusha is a consciousness or chit, while Prakriti is insentient, unconscious or jada. So there is a Chetana Tattva, there is a Jada Tattva. So for some reason, Purusha and Prakriti come together. Now, how they come together, why they come together, do they really come together? These are philosophical speculation. That is where Sankhyas and Advaita slightly differs. For example, Sankhyas believe in Parinamavada, while the Advaita believes in Vivartavada. We shall say it is not the part of today's discussion. But this Prakriti, once it starts procreating itself, how does it do that? The first element that it creates from Prakriti is called Buddhi or Mahat. The first element that comes from Prakriti is called Buddhi or Mahat. Now, Buddhi is discriminating capacity between Purusha and Prakriti. See the beauty of creation. Prakriti creates everything, takes the help of Purusha and creates Buddhi as the first tattva, which is also called Mahat, Buddhi, discriminating capacity. After Buddhi comes Ahankara, because imagine everything is created, but nobody feels that this is mine. What is the point of that creation? Are we in any way concerned with something that is happening and that is getting manufactured in some factory way there in America? We are not, because why? It is not within the cognition capacity of us, because we are not able to apply our ahankara to that thing, to say that I know it, I saw it, this is mine. That can happen only when ahankara develops. So after buddhi, ahankara comes, and after ahankara, the mind, manas is created. That is how the Sankhya says. Now, what happens here is this Prakriti, which creates this whole universe. Now, by now, we know that the universe is created by Prakriti. Everything, chara achara, is all attributed to Prakriti. Question is, how does it do it? How does Prakriti create what we see? And then comes the most important aspect, which has been adopted, co-opted, opted by Bhagavad Gita in the fullest extent. It is called Triguna Tattva. Largest contribution of Sankhya philosophy to the Hindu philosophy is Trigunas, the theory of Trigunas. Sattva, Raja, Tama. Now this Sattva, Raja, Tama, these are the three gunas or the mediums through which Prakriti creates everything. Now what happens? How does it create? That also they say. If Sattva, Raja, Tama are in absolute balance with each other, no creation is possible. In other words, these are three missiles or arrows which Prakriti keeps with her when they are in balance. When they are in imbalance, the creation starts. When the gunas are in imbalance, the creation starts. That means creation, when it is not done, gunas are in balance. The capacity is still there, the potency is still there, but the creation has not happened. Imbalance of the gunas will lead to formation of the creation, or the universe will start happening. When that starts happening, it goes without saying that this whole world is nothing else but made up of what? Three gunas. Because the three basic things through which Prakriti operates is Sattva, Raja, Tama. So whether we are talking about a man, a stone, a tree, this, that, water, whatever under this creation you take, including Akasha, including Pancha Mahabhuta, including Ashtada Prakriti, including whatever we can think of. In fact, the word important is whatever you can think of, or whatever mind can think of. And something that mind cannot think of also is creation of Prakriti through three gunas. So Sattva, Raja, Tama, through which it operates. Now comes the question, if it is operating through three gunas, then what is the role of these three gunas? And that is where the philosophy of Sankhyas comes into the handy help for the sadhaka, and that is why Bhagavan also has started out Sankhya Tattvajnan, so that he can explain to Arjuna an answer to his dilemma. Sankhya Tattvajnan says that these three gunas have their three qualities. Sattva is a shvet or safed, white in color. It is knowledge. It is purer. Sattva is purer. Rajoguna is responsible for the motion or the movement. Tamoguna is dark. Tamoguna is dark, tamas, and it is sloth, sleep, or inertia. Now we see there will be a person or anything in this world will be either in action, at rest, or neither in action nor at rest but at peace. These are the only three possible situations that a person born or anything that is born can be in. Take animal, take human beings, take anybody. Either we are sleeping, we are in tamas. Either we are acting and doing something like right now listening to the pravachana, rajoguna, or we are contemplating where we are enormous peace we are enjoying, sattva guna. Now, incidentally, creation has put a small spoke into this. The Prakriti says that as long as you are within me, as long as you are a part of the creation, you can never be in one guna. You will have to be in three gunas. The percentage may vary. You can have guna adhikya, but you cannot have only one guna. I am only sattvic, not possible. I am only rajas, not possible. I am only tamas, not possible. It could be 60, 20, 20, 63, this. So always a combination. For example, I am doing bhajana, Vithala, 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 Vithala. What is happening? Rajoguna is also there. I am remembering Vithala, so Satvaguna is also there. And after some time, I feel that I should rest because now better, the body is now paining. I think I should, take support of some pillar somewhere close by. Maybe aankhein band ho rahi hai. Tamas is also coming. Always the combination of gunas play on our mind. Now the question is, what is the use of these gunas? By knowing these gunas, why should I know these gunas at all? Since these gunas are the part of every creation, I being the creation, what is my definition by Sankhya Tattva Jnana? A creation. So I may be called by some name, that's a completely stupid story. I may be called as a human being, that is again a biologist's impression, Homo sapiens, that is the name they have given. From Sankhya Tattva Jnana, it is very simple. You are Trigunatmaka. कबीर महाराज says, अष्ट कमल दल चरखा चाले पांच तत्व की पूनी 9-10 मास बुनन को लागे 3 गुण धर दीनी चदरिया झीनी रेची. This chadariya, this body, is a very subtle work of that Almighty, which is nothing else 3 guna dhara dini. Because the 3 gunas are the constituents of mind. So sattva plus raja plus tamas is me. What about other? They are also sattva plus raja plus tamas. Then what is the difference? He is a doctor, I am a patient. Why? That is, sir, because doctor had a little higher sattva guna, so he could learn a little better. He became doctor. You became patient because you neglected certain things under the influence of tamas, drank what you should not have drank, ate something which you should not have ate, tamoguna. That is why tamoguna became subservient to the sattva guna. That is how patient got admitted in the hospital and doctor came to see you. Again, guni gunishu vartante, Bhagavad Gita shloka. Guni gunishu vartante, it is the guna that is talking to the guna. Guna operating with another guna. Prakriti operating with another prakriti. This is all a vast ocean. The waves are clashing with each other. But waves are clashing with each other. Basically, it is a part of the same ocean. So in the creation, it is the gunas that are interacting with each other. So sattva rajatuma. Now comes the most important part, that depending upon the predominance of the guna, the chances, this is where Sankhya gives the hope to us. Depending upon the predominance of the guna, whether you shall remain to be a part of the creation, whether you shall be suffering in this samsara, depends on which guna is predominating in you. One of the meaning of word guna is rope, rasi. Now 3 gunas, they bind yourself. That means with these 3 ropes you are tied. Now worst tightening is by the tamas. Little lighter than that tightening is by rajas. And the least tightening is by sattva. That means when you have the least tightening, the chances of escape are higher. So in other words, it becomes our duty to move from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva, and then go beyond sattva. What is that? Go beyond triguna. Nistraigunyo bhava arjunaha. That is the solution given by Lord for the dilemma faced in the first adhyaya. But how to go for Nistraigunyo? Before that, you must understand Trigunas. That is why you must understand Sankhya. That is why second adhyaya is Sankhya Yoga. Now, this Mahat Tattva, Buddhi, which gives rise to Ahankar, which gives rise to mind. This mind, along with the Sattva Guna, becomes Karmendriya, Jnanendriya, and mind. Tamas becomes Tanmatra. Tanmatra gives rise to the Panchasthula Mahabhuta. That is how Sankhya Tattvajnan believes in 25 Tattvas. In fact, Purusha is not called as a Tattva, so this some of the people say 24 Tattvas. Chaturvisha Sankhayante Chaturvinchanti Tattvani. Chaturvinchanti 24 Tattvas. Some of say 25. Now these 25 is 5 Karmendriya, 5 Jnanendriya, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Tanmatras, 5 Panchamahabhutas, 20. Now 4 are the Manasa, Ahankara, Buddhi, and Prakruti. So 20 plus 4, 24, and Purusha is 25th. So that is how 25. Now many times we ask us that is this just a theory or it is an experience? And the answer comes here again from nobody else but the Santa Mahatmas. Who are the Santa Mahatmas? What do they say? Kabir Maharaj says, 5, 25 pakad mangaऊ जी, एक ही डोर लगाऊंगा, निर्भय निर्गुण गुण रे गाऊंगा. Nirbhaya nirguna guna re gaunga. What nirbhaya nirguna? That means I will reach the Atma Tattvam. How? 5, 25 pakad mangaऊ जी, एक ही डोर लगाऊंगा. एक डोर Purush, Brahman. If you feel that only Kabir Maharaj had this experience, no. Gorakshanath Maharaj also says the same thing. 5, 25 बसे घट अंदर उनको घूट पिलाता हूं. शून्य गढ़ शहर, शहर गढ़ बस्ती. कौन जागे कौन सोता है, ब्रह्म जागे तन सोता है. पांचों चेला फिरे अकेला, अलख अलख जपता है. 5, 25 बसे घट अंदर उनको घूट पिलाता है. This is how even the realized souls have spoken about this 25 tattva or 25 tattvas. So Sankhya is nothing else but a darshana, a philosophical darshana, which talks about 25 tattvas. Once we understand the creation, once we understand the play of the gunas, it becomes easier to understand how this whole thing is operating, and then there is no doubt left in the mind as to what is dharma and what is not dharma. Now, how to relate dharma with this Sankhya Tattvajnana? In this creation, if I am also there, which I am, I know I am, the fact remains that why am I here? I'm here because I'm a part of the creation. That means I am nothing else but a spare part or a small piece in the entire cosmos. If I am a piece of the entire cosmos, can a small piece know the entirety? Can a screw know the machine? A machine can know the screw, but can a screw know the machine? That is not possible. That means if I am a part of this particular cosmos, my ability to understand the cosmos shall always remain limited because I am endowed with howsoever best amongst the creation, but still with Santa Buddhi, limited intellect. With limited intellect, I cannot be presumed to understand. I cannot presume that I shall understand the entire cosmos. Now, if this is the case, how can I know what is right and what is wrong in this world? My interpretation about right and wrong shall always remain subject to the limitations that I have. For that matter, somebody says that killing is very bad. We all agree. Ahimsa is very bad. But Swami Vivekananda himself said that when I am talking, in my mouth thousands of microbes are dying. What about that himsa? So what is himsa and what is ahimsa. So that means everything that we talk is relative in nature. Sthala, kala. So there are so many limitations with which truth gets defined. That is why Narova Kunjarova, when Yudhishthira said, maybe man, maybe elephant, where was the truth? The truth here again became very relative to the situation. And yet that being a relative truth, the one who always spoke of truth, his ratha came down. What it means is Skhalana, going down, happened to Yudhishthira because whether what he spoke was truth or not was not verified or was not established. Establishing the truth is possible only when one has what is called as Samyak Drushti. That is why in Bhagavad Gita we always see a word, Sapashyati Yapashyati. Dhyana Vastita Gatena Manasa Yam Pashyati Yogino. What yogis see, that is why that knowledge is also called as a Yogaja Jnana. Yogaja means comprehensive view of the entire cosmos. When is comprehensive view of entire cosmos possible? When is comprehensive intellect of cosmos possible? Only when I transcend the small intellect and go towards the higher intellect. The highest intellect of the universe is Hiranyagarbha. When I transcend myself from my own body and mind. First of all, I must transcend the limitations. If I want to know what is limitless, to become limitless, I must transcend the limits. We are all Laghu Chetasa. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is a complete expansion of intellect. So that is why the transcendence is only possible when we work upon it. So to understand the dilemma, Arjuna's dilemma that came was from a refined intellect, but yet limited intellect. Because it was a Maryadit Buddhi, he had to ask to somebody who had transcended the human mind and gone to the universal mind, the Lord Bhagavan, because he's the right person to say what is to be said. A child, when asks a question to the father is able to answer because he knows more than the child. But this more and more has to end somewhere. And that ending is Kasmin Bhagavo Vijnate Sarvam Idam Vijnato Bhavati. What can it be there which if I understand, there is nothing left to understand? That is the question. And that question is what precisely Bhagavan is trying to teach the disciple. He is not interested in giving a small answer to him, saying that forget, you just go ahead, do the war, rest I will see. No. What he is trying to say that, let my disciple do whatever he is doing from the complete and in total understanding of the universe, of the universal knowledge, of the unlimited self. And then his every action will be perfect as per the dharma. Dharma blooms to its maximum. That is why the only people who perform everything, including the breathing, as per the dharma, are the sant, or the rishis, or the munis. Why? Because they have reached a stage, self-realization. They have realized the Atma Tattva. Now here the Sankhya Tattva Jnana, if it has so much into it, Bhagavan chose that as the first Tattva Jnana. Now there are two aspects into it. Sankhya Tattva Jnana, if one has understood the gunas, at least he can start working on the gunas so that every birth he starts refining himself, one, and two, right here and here itself, he can take a test about his own nature. What is that is predominating in me will tell me what kind of gunas I am made up of. For example, even though it is a Friday, I feel like listening to Bhagavad Gita is a sign of a sattvikata in the person. Because choice is in front of us. One can sleep little more because it's all holiday everywhere. Or one can utilize it for thinking, utilize it for reading, utilizing it for contemplation, utilizing it for meditation. These are all sattvikata udaya chinna. This is lingam of sattvikata. This is a mark of sattvikata. Another thing is, because we have been asked to be indoors for some reason, people are finding it very difficult. Every channel is broadcasting how the mental health has to be kept in. Why? What is happening to the mental health by sitting at one place? You always wanted free time. Everyone had a complaint that I have no free time. Now there is a free time offered to you by God for whatever reasons, whatever circumstances. The biggest problem is I cannot sit at one place without doing anything. Why without doing anything? Because Rajoguna. If at all, for some reason, internet and television is stopped at this moment, we cannot even imagine what can happen in every household. What real nature of ours will come out. Why so? It is because our Rajoguna is so predominant. You can see the Rajoguna's predominance even while watching the TV. How many channels we change? Because we want to see everything in everywhere. Maybe it is better there, maybe it is better here. This fluctuation, this chanchalya itself is Rajoguna. Sitting at one place, contemplating upon God, thinking about who am I? Raman Maharshi's basic question that he said you think about is Nanayar. Who am I? How many of us do that? Instead, Rajoguna compels me to do certain things, calling the friends over, maybe talking on the phone to somebody, maybe talking to the wife, maybe to the children. Some action has to happen, otherwise we feel tossed. We are tossed. This is Kship. In Yoga Shastra, there is a Vikshipta and Kshipta Mana. This is a Kshipta Mana. Always tossing. That is Rajoguna. And there are some who are enjoying this world as a place to procrastinate and sleep. Laziness. What about bath, sir? अरे आजकल छुट्टी चल रही है, नहा लेंगे 2-3 दिन में एक बार. तमस. हाथ धो के खाना खाने के लिए बैठना है. अरे अभी तो बाहर से साफ ही है, मैंने कहीं लगाया नहीं है. तमस. यूज सैनिटाइजर्स रेगुलरली. अब अभी लगाया था थोड़ी देर पहले. तमस. वो I brought Bhagavad Gita, but it's been almost 2 years I have not opened it. तमस. वो मुझे एक बार जाके ना डॉक्टर से वो थोड़ा ठीक करना है, बिकॉज सुनाई कम देता है. जा रहा हूँ सोच रहा हूँ, टाइम ही नहीं मिल रहा है. तमस. Everywhere tamas predominates in our life. So one where tamas is predominating. And how do you know tamas is predominating? Pashu yoni or tiriyak yoni has tamas more into them. So ahara nidra bhayamaithunam cha samanabhi pashubhi naranam. In pashu and nara, both are same. So if we are predominated by these 4 things, ahara, nidra, bhaya and maithun, that means we are in tamas. We do not see any donkey thinking about which place to go for grazing. He never thinks because he cannot think. A non-thinking person is puchchavihena virahanti. It is actually an animal, only tail is not there. That is what Subhashitkar says. So that means tamasa, rajasa and sattvika in us we can understand. A sattvic person feels, oh, it is Brahma Muhurta, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I must get up. A sattvic person feels, I must remember God. A sattvic person feels, oh, I'm causing inconvenience to others. A sattvic person feels that I shall not be the source of irritation or issues or problems or sorrow to anybody. Ashtadasha Puraneshu Vasisya Vachanadvayam Paropakarha Punyaya Papaya Parapidanam. Parapida, if you are sensitive about it, that itself is sattvikta. One of the Bhikha Maran, one Sufi son says, Rahe bagiche ma, पान फूल को हाथ न लावे रहे बगीचे में. भिक्खा साधु वो कही जो दुखे दुखावे ना. Do not harm or hurt anybody. Rahe bagiche ma, stay in this world. So Sankhya philosophy gives us an idea and insight to know what kind of gunas are predominating in me. And that is the reason why through Sankhya philosophy, Lord is trying to make understand Arjuna that understand this creation first, your question will automatically get answered. Because your standpoint is wrong. This standpoint is a very important thing in life. We understand the world from our standpoint. And not only that we understand it, we are absolutely certain about that standpoint. And what is our standpoint? This world is made for making enjoyment. This world is made for making money. This world actually wants me to raise my children. and I should be the only person having all the money in the world. I should be the only person, I should be happy. In fact, our happiness is so stupid that we are not happy unless somebody is deprived of something. उसका शेयर में लॉस हो गया, मेरे शेयर को फायदा हो गया. That gives more pleasure than me alone doing something. If I have topped the merit in university, the very fact that word top is there because I know in my mind that there are another 500 below me, that gives me more pleasure than being first amongst the 500. That is how relative our pleasure is. If this is the case, then comes the question that how is it that such a person can find emancipation? That is why we have to 100% come out of the tamas, reduce the rajas to the extent possible, except using the rajas for the God himself, and then have predominance of sattvikta in us. Why does sattvikta we require? Because that propels us forward towards the emancipation, towards the self-realization. And that is the greatest contribution of Sankhya Tattvajnana. Another important thing, Sankhya Tattvajnana was the first one who told us that if there is any creation, if there is anything existing, it cannot exist without a cause. Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na abhavo vidyate sataha. This is the shloka mantra going to come in second adhyaya. We are going to see each mantra once we start with it. But this mantra is a very critical mantra. Nasato vidyate bhavaha means from asat, sat cannot be born, and if there is an abhava, then sat cannot be there. That means only sat can prevail, asat can never prevail. In effect, if it has come, there has to be a cause. And since creation is an effect, it must have a cause. And as Gurudeva says, creation is nothing else but effect in multiple forms. All the multiple forms are nothing else but cause in these multiple forms. Moment the multiple forms and manifestations are extinguished, nothing remains, only the cause remains. And that is why in Sankhya Tattvajnana, transcending the Prakriti is understanding this creation or Prakriti and understanding that this Prakriti is different than the Purusha, that is Kaivalya. When we realize that whatever is created is abhasa or adhyasa, and only truth is Purusha, that is called Kaivalya, which is equivalent to moksha in Kaivalya in Sankhya philosophy. We will also see that the three gunas have their propensity of desires in the mind. Ye kamaha pramuchyante. We know that Kathoparishada shloka. Only when the desires are lost, then martyo amruto bhavanti. The mortal becomes immortal. Ye kamaha prakama, desire. These desires are again creation of nothing else but the gunas. Now we all know that the tamas, the dark quality, the black quality, it gives rise to what is called as dareshana. All the sex urges, the desires, the sex desires, they come because of tamas. Because of the rajas, lokeshana comes. There are people who are, look at all these politicians, they just want that they should be recognized in the world, recognition, fame. I am so and so. The ego, the drudhata of ego, ahankara. So Rajoguna represents the ego, and the ego propels such people to always strive and work hard for one thing. What is that? Recognition. Yashakirti Satta Pratishtha. This is what propels them to work. So that becomes Lokeshana. So we have Tamas giving rise to Dareshana. We have Rajas giving rise to Lokeshana. And then also the Sattva Guna also gives rise to some issues. And what are the issues of Sattva Guna? When the Sattvic quality starts predominating, there is enormous amount of stress in the mind about the world that is around. what will happen to the world? How many people are suffering? The compassion, the bind that we have with the other people for their welfare, even that weighs on the mind. Even the thought that when am I going to get the realization of God? How much am I trying? Look at Gautam Buddha. He almost was crawling on his two hands and 2 feet out of the sadhana that he was doing with complete utter dejection of spirit, presuming that I am not going to get the salvation. Look at Ramakrishna. When the Kali Mata did not give the darshan, at the last point, even Ramakrishna Paramahamsa got up from the dejection of the spirit and took the sword in his hand to cut his own head. That was the time she appeared. So prior to her appearance, dejection of spirit, that was sattvic issue. So the dilemmas of this kind are called despondency. Now we understand where the question of Arjuna was lying. It was not through tamas, it was not through rajas, it was through sattvikata. This dilemma which you get when you are in sattvikata and a path of liberation, there are unsurmountable difficulties. It is a different story that God helps in such situation. He helps in the form of Sadguru Tattva. That is all fine. But the fact that even the sattvikata, that is the reason God says that come from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattvikata, and then nistraibunyo bhava, transcend all the qualities. That means transcend the prakriti. That is the procedure. Is it not that the modern Sigmund Freud is talking about the same thing? When he says id, ego and superego, are we not talking about tamas, rajas and sattva? If you read the Freud's psychology book, you will find precisely the same. He identifies id with sex, ego with recognition, and superego with the moral dilemmas. That means these three gunas, they're so closely related to each other. Go wherever you go, you will not find anything else other than the interplay of 3 gunas. That is why Lord is trying to tell Arjuna how the creation has happened, what is Prakriti, how Prakriti is Bahu Prasava, how she is dominated by 3 gunas. As long as 3 gunas exist, Prakriti exists. 3 gunas are not there, Prakriti is not existing. So understand the gunas, understand what kind of havoc they create in your life, and that is why the questions that you get are nothing else but the preponderance of the gunas that you have in you. If Rajoguna is predominating, your questions will be simple. How can I get the best possible share in the market? Rajoguna Prashna. Tamas will, bas aisa hona chahiye, I will have all kind of alcohol, booze on one side, a lady on the other side, and nothing else I need in this world. Tamoguna is predominating. And when I say that, I am last 30 years, I'm a brahmachari, I'm going from place to place, nothing is inside. God knows when I'm going to get realization of God. Did I make a mistake by leaving the Grahastha Ashrama? Did I make a mistake by leaving the house when instead of getting married and having a married life? These questions also predominate in the mind of sadhakas. We have only seen Vivekananda, Ramakrishna. These are people who have achieved the state. That is the reason why Bhagavan also says in one of his adhyaya that Yoga Brashtaha. Yoga Brashta, that means one who is incomplete, whose task is not complete. When he starts again in the next birth, he starts from the point where he has left. So nothing goes waste. But at the same time, till we reach it is like a person who is climbing Mount Everest, and about 1,000 feet below that, 8,848 is where Mount Everest is. But at 7,848, he feels that I don't think I'll be able to do it. Actually, he has climbed to that extent itself means he has done a great amount of work. But the fact is, he has still not reached at that point. And that is why those dilemmas are called as Vishada. And then this Vishada gives a further boost of things inside with the help of course, Sadguru. And then you start moving forward into it. That is how the whole Sankhya philosophy is basically defining, delimiting the abilities of a common man versus a superman or supra mind, as Yogi Aurobindo calls it. And that is why Bhagavan doesn't want to give an answer of a one-liner to his disciple. He wants his disciple to understand the basis of the answer, the fundamental aspects of the answer. Having an answer, supposing tomorrow somebody comes to us and says that, oh, Atma Tattva is the only thing existing, everything is illusory. Immediately you will ask a question, I don't know what Atma Tattva is. Why it is illusory when I'm talking to you? I know you are talking to me, I can touch you, you can touch me. How you say that the world is not at all existing? Then the questions galore in the mind and it confuses further. That is the reason why Arjuna, with his best possible intellect, he got confused. That is one of the reasons why he himself said that Karpanya dosha apahata swabhavaha. Karpanya dosha is a limited intellect. Gurudev, Bhagavan, I cannot understand what is happening. I'm putting my best foot forward, yet I'm falling short of understanding why I should be killing all those people on the other side. Now, supposing instead of Sankhya Yoga, if Lord has given an answer that, they are already killed by me. You just nimitta matra bhava savve sachin. If he would have said that statement earlier, you think that would have been right? The sequence would have been lost. Everything has to go by sequence. That is why when you go to medical or engineering college or whatever, we go first through anatomy, then through physiology, then through pathology, then through microbiology, then through medicine, then through surgery. There is a step involved into everything. Why? Because that is called Buddhi Vikas. So Buddhi Vikas has to be kept in mind. Why Bhagavad Gita has remained, shall remain as a cherished scripture of Hinduism for all times to come. It's simply because its relevance has never been lost. Umpteen number of years have passed, but not one word relevance is lost, simply because it is an answer for the mankind till the mankind exists. And that is because its structure, the way it is organized, right in the beginning, when Lord is addressing Arjuna for his problem, second Adhyaya takes as many as 72 shlokas. Then the elaboration starts. In fact, some of the philosophers say that second Adhyaya itself is Bhagavad Gita. And then you find we go up to 17, and at the conclusion, the longest and the biggest Adhyaya, 18th Adhyaya, has 78 mantras. So too big. This is second biggest Adhyaya. Now, it is not that by number of mantras the Adhyaya becomes great, but the arrangement, the logical flow of the mantras. That is why Sangati between first Adhyaya and second Adhyaya, that is more important. What happened in the first Adhyaya, we cannot forget by the time we go to the second Adhyaya. The answer is coming for Arjuna's question. It is presumed when we start second Adhyaya that we have understood the question absolutely the way Arjuna understood it. So first we should ask a question, do I have a question similar to Arjuna, or my questions are different? And then you realize that how stupid our questions are. What are my questions? What if I die? What will happen to my children when I am not there? What if tomorrow Lakshmi goes out of my house? What if 2-3 people come and insult me? What will happen if I become sick? What is it that suddenly my coronary show 80% block? These are not Vishada Yoga Prashna. Whatever is going to happen to the body, the Shwasa, the Jata, these are all determined. Shariram Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. We must take care of our health. That is what the Shastra says. But after taking care, expecting that I have taken a care, so my 150 years are reserved, that is where the stupidity comes in. The bigger question than that is, where is the question of my death? Do I really die? Who dies? Who is born? Am I the one who is born and one who dies, or I am beyond birth and the death? Fundamental questions. And that is why a fundamental question raised by Arjuna requires a fundamental answer. And that is why, while answering that, Bhagavan has given preponderance or the first preference to the philosophy called Sankhya philosophy. And that is why Sankhyas have enormous contribution. Sankhya Tattvajnan is started by one Kapila Rishi. We don't know much about Kapila Rishi now because his writings are also not available. However, the Ishwara Chandra, one of the Rishi of 6th century, 5th, 6th century, he wrote a commentary on that through which we come to know. It is like through Plato we come to know Socrates. Similarly, through Sankhya Karika of Ishwar Chandra, we come to know what Kapil Muni has written. And that is from there the Sankhya Tattvajnana has been, and incidentally the Sankhya Tattvajnana has influenced not only Advaita, it has influenced Jain Dharma, it has influenced Bauddha Dharma. That was the influence of Sankhya. So predominant was philosophy of Sankhya during that period, almost up to 100 BC or first century, that studying the Sankhya philosophy was an essential part of all those who were in Paramartha. That is why we see Sankhya's philosophy pervading everywhere in each and every philosophy of Hinduism. And that is why Bhagavan also has given highest amount of importance to Sankhya Tattvajnana. Incidentally, on the same Sankhya Tattvajnana, the Sankhya Karika was written by Gaudapada. Shankaracharya's guru was Govindpada. Govindpada's guru, Paratpar Guru of Shankaracharya, he had written a Sankhya Karika on which our Gurudeva has written most beautiful comment. One of the best commentaries on Gaudapada's Karika is written by our Gurudeva, worth reading. We all must read it. Now that we are introduced to Sankhya Tattvajnana, in short, this is just the top flowers, the small top ends that I could touch of the Sankhya Tattvajnana. But as we now go through the second Adhyaya, at least we have a background of what Sankhya Tattvajnana is. Amongst the different darshanas, Sankhya is one darshana. Now comes the question that after understanding the theory class, can I go home? I cannot go home. Somebody taught me how the engine works on the screen. And they told me about carburetor, piston and whatnot and brake and everything. Now is the time for me to go to the Prayogashala, practice. That is where I'll be opening the bonnet, checking each and everything. Is it working as per what I learned? That means in case of Sankhya, it is the Tattvajnana. And what about Yoga? Yoga Shastra is precisely a twin brother of Sankhya. Yoga is not knowledge, yoga is action. So theory is Sankhya, practice or practical is yoga. Atha yoga anushasanam. Yoga na jidnyasaha. Yoga is not knowledge in that sense. Yoga is implementing the knowledge of Sankhya into practice. That is why if you read Patanjali's Yoga Shastra, you will find absolute practical hints into it. Now, either you have a choice to study all the darshanas, Brahma Sutra, Upanishads, then Karikas, then Bhashyas, or we have a choice to completely take the Saravat, the gist of everything in one Grantha, that is Bhagavad Gita. If Bhagavad Gita is taught, see, it is complementary in a different way. Either we study all the Upanishads and the Brahma Sutras and then come to Bhagavad Gita. In case of Gurudeva, Tapovan Maharaj taught all the Upanishads. After teaching Upanishads, when the question was asked, he asked his Gurudeva, what about Bhagavad Gita? He said, no, you don't need it. What does that mean? It means you already got what is there in Bhagavad Gita. Not only got, he taught entire country for so many years the scripture that he never learned from his Gurudev. Why? Because he learned. So these are two complementary things. And yet he felt the importance of using Bhagavad Gita for the masses as well as for the classes. Bhagavad Gita is for classes as well as for masses. The reason being, this is the only fluid scripture that tells us precisely what one should do. And that is why we see that Sankhya Tattvajnana is a logical culmination of creation of this world. So first, pehle pata to karo where you are, who you are, why you are here, who brought you here, from here, where you are going, why you are suffering, what is samsara, what is dukkha, what is sukha, what are the different kleshas that I am suffering from, why am I afraid of the death, am I doing whatever I am doing, is it right or not? I call myself dharmi because I go and bang a bell in the temple. Is it dharma? I keep criticizing in a day at least 50 times. Our statement that we utter in any public discourse as well as in the house is always talking about criticizing somebody. And then what is the dharma saying? Konahi jivacha na ghado matsara varna sarveshwara pujanache. Tukaram Maharaj says, not even iota of creation should be despised by you. Why? You are a part of the creation. So the cosmos or the creation, you are a part of it. Better behave like a part of it. When we behave as a part of the universe, then we are along the path of dharma. Why? Because cosmos runs on the path of dharma. The path that is opted by cosmos or the creation is dharma. When we align ourselves with that dharma, then the cosmos doesn't kick back to us. That means there is no karma phala prapti. Karma you must, but when you are doing the karma, if it is iski jod dharma ke saath ho, karma, if it is mixed with dharma, and that is why Kabir Maharaj says Surat and Nirat. Surat and Nirat is dharma and karma if they go together. That is why Chaturvida Purushartha is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The two banks through which our life should flow as a river is dharma and moksha. These are two banks. Artha kam comes within. No artha, no kama without dharma, without moksha. Once this is clear to us, then it becomes easier on our part to look at the questions that we face. So first of all, raise the level of questions that you are facing. Do not ask mundane questions. Mundane questions. How do I look? Going to the beauty parlor, buying a new shoe, buying umpteen number of shirts, asking everybody how beautiful I look. How is my body? How is my body? These are mundane questions. Panch Mahabhut ka putla hai. It is bound to decay one day. But how much importance are we giving to it? Comfort, luxury, kaya, the sharira, the amount of importance that we give to it. These are mundane questions. These are not questions that Bhagavad Gita would entertain. Why? Because they are too, what can be termed as a too trivial questions. Fundamental question is to be answered. Once we know the fundamentals, that is why whether it is engineering, whichever side of engineering, the fundamental of physics is taught first. You must know what is force, mass, acceleration, radius of gyration. Then we move forward towards trajectories and satellites and whatnot. Fundamental question. So fundamental question is, who am I? What is my role here? Is my relationship with everybody correct or not? Is it not that Lord Krishna was related to everybody? He was the best husband one could think of, best son one could think of, best Raja one could think of, best Savangadi, best Sakha. Look at Sudama. He was best into everything, and yet he had a cryptic smile on the face. I am not with anybody. Being with everybody, and yet not. Hum sabma sab hamima hum hai bahuri akela. Hum sabma sab hamma hum hai bahuri akela. Avdhuta gagana ghata gehrani. When that dawns, and this is possible only in the birth of a human being. That is why asking a question to ourselves, what is my question? What am I struggling for? If I'm struggling for daily existence, animals do it. In spite of whatever is happening around right now, everybody is getting their own food. That's his creation. That's not a problem. Till date, even Henry Ford or Rockefeller, even though he was billionaire and multi-billionaire, he was still eating bread. You may be the richest person in the world, but you will not be eating gold in your food. You will be eating bread. So the fact remains that ahara nidra bhayamaithunam cha, these are very, very fundamental requisites. And we have elaborated that into such a beautiful thing. We have glorified it. We have glorified our animal instincts into what is called as achievements, upwardly mobile as we call it. All these are to be shunned and go back to the fundamental question. That question came to Arjuna. That is why Lord himself was very happy Lord has been happy about Arjuna because God always likes somebody who is coming close to him. God knew, Lord knew that Arjuna is now almost on the verge of his final journey. That's why such a $1 million question has come. So weighing the question of $1 million properly, Lord has started with Sankhya Yoga. That is how a short view of Sankhya Yoga we tried to discuss today. As we go through the Adhyaya, each mantra will shed more and more light on this. This Gunatraya is going to come in so many. There is a Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, that is fine. But other than Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, Gunas will be coming in almost every chapter. It predominates in 18th chapter also. That is why, because it is so important. And that is why a complete chart has been given by Lord. Understand the universe, understand who you are, understand why the creation is there, understand how the creation runs. Once you understand this, then Arjuna, if you know that the diamond is lying in the forest, you will not be running towards the city because the diamond is lying in the forest. With us, what has happened is we have never struggled to find Atma Tattvam. We have struggled to find our existence in this world in our way through our limited intellect. First of all, surrender your intellect. First step is to understand that we are limited. And we are not limited only by the body. We are anyway delimited by the body, but we are limited in intellectual grasp. So either we increase our intellect, means itself increase our sattvikata, and till that point, what do? Mahajano yena gataha sapanthaha. Whichever way the Lord and the Rishis have told us, we have to follow that. That is called Shraddha. Having faith in the path that is given by the Rishis. Till the time we realize it ourselves, it is called Shraddha. If we just feel the faith in their sayings, but we do not struggle or try to get to the state where they are, then it is called Andhashraddha. Andhashraddha is an escapism. Escapism is, Gurudeva was great. He was great. He doesn't require our certification. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Swami Vivekananda are not in need of our certification. But what is important is, when is that day going to come when I shall be at the feet of Swami Vivekananda, at the feet of Ramakrishna? That is when we can say that the Shraddha has fructified. Then the mantra comes true. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. That jnanam will come only when the Shraddha gets converted into effort. So Shraddha and effort together, a constant progress. How long it will take? Why worry about it? It is as per the norms, it will go. But in this birth, why so much in hurry? It may come in the birth, it may come in the next instant. What do we know? How do we know? There were people who were addicted to alcohol as well as women. And he used to come to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and everybody complained about it, and Ramakrishna said it is his last birth. Everybody was shocked and aghast. Why? Because we saw his drinking of this birth. We did not know what has happened in the earlier births. Gurudeva himself used to smoke. Many people went and complained to Tapovan Maharaj that, such a realized person, how is he smoking? Why is he a sadhak? He should not be smoking. And then Gurudeva said, there is so much fire in him that you did not see. You only saw the smoke coming out of the nostrils. That is because our intellect doesn't know which place we are standing, what is our baggage of sanchita and prarabdha, how much more is left, when are we. These are questions which are not to be answered. They are called avakyruta prashna. What will happen? What will happen? No. We should be in present. Those who think of the future, Gurudeva says, are wasting their energy, because thinking of future is anxiety. Thinking of past is nothing else but the stupidity. Gatam nashocham, Bhagavad Gita says. Then think of what? Present. At present, what can I do? How can I spend my every breath for my upliftment or the remembrance of God, which are one and the same thing? That is the message that is forthcoming through the Sankhya Yoga. So that is how a short view of Sankhya philosophy we could discuss together and enlighten ourselves, including the one who is speaking. And now we can perhaps take a bold step of embarking into the mantras of the second Adhyaya. Hari Om. Mahat means something that is of enormous importance. So Mahat has been equated to Buddhi, has been used, the Buddhi word has been used as Mahat because intelligence is the only Mahatvapurna cheez in the entire creation. But the word used by Sankhyas is Mahat. That is first one. Second is, in case of evolution of Darwin and our evolution, the difference lies, a fundamental difference lies there. Survival for the fittest of the species is what Darwin is proposing. And according to him, anybody who changes as per the situation, and change can come into the genetic material also, so that the fittest one survives. For example, when there was an animal Armageddon that happened, that time a very small fish was there who survived, and that is today's shark. So this is how the theory of Darwin goes. In case of Sankhya, they say that, first of all, this creation is nothing else but a constant expanding procreation that is happening through Prakriti. It keeps on expanding till the point where the Prakriti decides to call it back. When it goes again into the seed form called Bija form, and then again the same Bij can again become Vyakta. So from avyakta to vyakta, unmanifest to manifest, manifest to unmanifest, this is classical of Sankhya, which is not there in our evolution. The reason being, Darwin is talking about a very limited time period. While the time, the cosmogony as they call it, the time concept in Sankhya is huge, wide. So that is one important thing. Reincarnation, when we are talking about, the question is, many a times the Purusha or the conscience principle decides to be a part of the Prakriti for the sake of the welfare of certain Prakriti elements. So such a thing of descending down from the top is called avatarana, coming down. So Ramakrishna, Bhagavan Rama, Bhagavan Krishna was avatarana. And for that, Bhagavad Gita itself is a classic evidence, because yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata means that is the time I need to come. Now, dharma can undergo glani in my mind alone in this world, or it can go for a particular samuha, group, or for the entire universe. So, Krishna has remained as an avatara for last 2000 years, as an ideal for us. So, he came down because he's there to show us the way out. So, that is why when that I believe is the second question, that third question that you had asked. And regarding bhayam, we need to understand that bhayam is defined as dvitiyat vai bhayam. Whenever there are two, there is fear. Now this fear can extend, it's a big kaleidoscope. It can extend from just being afraid of smaller things up to the last, which is called abhinivesh or death. Fear of death is called abhinivesh. Now these are the kleshas. One of the pancha klesha described in Patanjali Yoga Sutra is abhinivesh or fear of death. Now these deaths, they vary. The question is, why I feel afraid is simply because I consider myself as separate from the existence. Now imagine those who transcend this, they'll be afraid of whom? I cannot be afraid of myself. As Gurudeva says, a car cannot run over a driver. Similarly, Dvitiyadvaya Bhayam, so that is why Bhaya becomes a part. Now, whose Bhaya is condensed Bhaya? One who is most self-centered. Animals have an instinct of Bhaya. Why? Because they always think of survival. In case of human beings, the situation is not that bad. So our Bhayam is many a times self-created Bhayam. So we have created Bhaya. My money will go away. It's a created Bhaya. Because even if money goes away, where do you go? You don't die. See, my Bhayam is whatever I have created may go. People will not recognize me. So this is my creation. So most of the Bhayam of human intellect is mind-born Bhaya. While in case of the animals, it is instinctual Bhaya. It is coming by instinct. Even we have instinctive Bhaya. For example, something falls right in front of us, we are scared. That is instinct, which is basically a part of the original instinct. But 99% of the Bhayam is a created Bhayam. I believe one question I'm missing. What was that?
The Purush and Prakriti relationships that have been explained, are they same in the subsequent chapters, or are they a modification?
Yes, what happened is over the period, Sankhya philosophy has been accommodated into Advaita, and it mixed so freely with it that in fact many a times Purusha, Brahma, they started almost being used interchangeably. So when we talk about Purushottama Yoga, now see Purushottama is when you say Uttama Purusha, that means there is an Anuttama Purusha. Must be another Purusha also. But since there is one Purusha, how can there be Purusha Uttama? That means what it says is in the manifested world also Purusha is there, unmanifested world also Purusha is there, and beyond unmanifested and manifested world Purusha is there. That Purusha is Purushottama, and this is Kshetra Kshetrajna. So I become Kshetrajna, that is again a Purusha, but in a manifested form. This is precisely what we were discussing in Kathopanishad as Sopadika Brahma, Nirupadika. Hari. That was, you will always see that normally the variation, major variation between 24 and 25. When we say 16, some of them considered, for example, Tanmatra and Pancha Mahabhuta. From Tanmatra, Pancha Mahabhutas are created. So you can call them 5, 5, 10, or just take 5. So it is just the counting that differs. The tattvas do not differ. Tattvas are always same. How do you count them? It depends. For example, those who say 24. So that is why I told you the definition, Chaturvinchanti Tattvani. That is what Sankhya's definition is there. But other people say 25 because they include Purusha also in Tattva. Now, Purusha should not be included in Tattva. That is what some people say. It depends on counting. But the fact remains that the 25 enumerations have been there. Now, whether you call it 25 or club 2 5 5s into together, like Karmendriya, Jnanendriya. Instead of calling it 5 and 5, you say Indriya and say 5. So it all depends on the way of counting. But that is why we find in many of the places, like Gorakshanath says 25, Kabir Maharaj says 25. Some of the saints have even referred it as 21 tattvas, because they consider that Prakriti, Buddhi, Ahankar, this all has basically nothing else but the progression. So why call it separate? Prakriti modifies itself into Buddhi, Buddhi modifies itself into Ahankara, Ahankara modifies itself into Manasa. So it is one and the same. That is why you see in Advaita, our Antakaran Chatushta is there. We consider one Antakaran only, but Chatushta is there. Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankara is called Chatushta. But actually, what is it? Antakarana. So it can be 4, it can be 1. Similarly, some people take these 3 as 1. Which one? Buddhi Ahankara Manas in Sankhya. If it is taken as 1, then it becomes 1 Tattva. It is just the counting. That is why one of the definition of Sankhya is Sankhyayanti Yasya Saha Sankhyaha. That which can be counted is Sankhya. That is why if you see in Ganit, we have a word called Sankhya. Sankhya means count. So this is a interplay of counting. That's why it is also called Sankhya. Sankhya means that which can be counted. There's also another definition. That which can be counted needs to be understood. That which cannot be counted need not be understood. See the subtlety in the definition. Because creation is counted, so we need to understand what creation is. That which cannot be counted, which is Atma Tattvam, there is no need to learn. Why? You cannot learn about it. You become Atma Tattvam. That's another way of defining it. So it's just the way of counting, nothing more than that. Very good.
I have a very
The darshan proposed by Charvak is very simple for us to understand, because most of us we are already following it. What Charvak says is, body is the ultimate thing. There is nothing called man, nothing called Prakriti, nothing called Maya. There is no future birth. There is nothing. This world is there for basically enjoying the world, right? So whatever you see is true. This world is true, and what all you should be doing is just enjoy the world. It almost similar to what we are doing, but that darshan is yat darshan, Charvak darshan. Runam krutva ghrutam pibet. Take the loan and eat the butter. Right? After death, who is going to come to collect the dues? Is it not something similar to the credit card dues we have? So this is what is called a Charvak darshan, because it says Atma means body. Their presumption is, see what has happened, it is a logical progression, but don't think that it is a very loose darshan, it is a darshana, it is a philosophy. But how it goes, initially everybody said, this body is the only thing, this universe is truth, this body is also true. There is no further birth. That is how the philosophy started. Then when it came to Nyaya and Vaisheshika, they said, Buddhi is Atma. Buddhi is Atma, not the body. Buddhi is Atma. Then further, the philosophy went further and they said that no. Buddhi is also Jada. Beyond Buddhi, there is a Purusha. So that is further Sankhya. Then came the question, if it is beyond that, then it must be immutable, avikari. Then how it is creating universe? Then that darshana became lame. The Sankhya's could not explain how Purusha and Prakriti are coming together. Then further the thought went, and then came Advaita, which said that Vivartatava, that there is a Brahman, there is a Maya, they do not interact with each other, but under the auspices of Maya, through Vivartavada, the universe is created. So it's a logical progression of an idea of creation of universe. So Charvak stands at the lowest rung of the ladder. At the highest rung, Advaita stands. No. See, we have Shad Darshanas as, we know Sankhya Yoga, Nyaya Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. This Uttar Mimamsa is also called Advaita because Uttar Mimamsa and Advaita, these both of them take the recourse to Upanishads for their philosophical purpose. And in this Advaita, what is Advaita? Advaita means there is only one, right? Vadat ul Wajud. That is what even the Sufis say. There is only one. Now the question is, if there is only one, then how am I related to him? What is my relationship to him? So some of them said that no, he is only one, but we are there as a part of them. So we are Ansha of them. Then some of them say no, if I am Ansha of them, then can I become him, or can I always be a part of him? For example, if you look at the Madhvacharya's interpretation, he said, you can be close to the God. You can be right on his lap, but you cannot be God. Right? So that means Shuddha Advaita, Kevala Advaita, Dvaita Advaita, Bheda Bheda, these are the variations of Advaita, Uttar Mimamsa. So all that is coming under Uttar Mimamsa. Hari.